Welcome to PreciousMetalsInvesting.com. My name is Ted Sudol, and I have the pleasure of having as my guest today Paul Mladjenovic. Paul is the author of Precious Metals Investing for Dummies. He also has his own website, theravencapitalist.com. Welcome, Paul.
Good to be back on your show, Ted.
Okay, and I'd like to both welcome new visitors to PreciousMetalsInvesting.com and also our longtime viewers at PreciousMetalsInvesting.org. We recently made the change to the .com extension since it's more widely recognized. And welcome. You'll find that you'll still get the same great commentary, same great content, and the even more great free resources. So thanks for sticking with us if you've made the change to the .com, and we won't disappoint you.
Good to be back on the show. I feel like it's a promotion. You know, we went from .org to .com. Let's hope that we reach a wider audience.
Right.
Now, Ted, this is actually going to be maybe a longer than usual segment because I have a real rant to be on.
That's good.
Now, the thing is this. I saw an article by a widely read economic commentator in a widely read newspaper, and this came out in late February, and it so infuriated me. I said, Ted, I have to comment on this, okay? And the article, I'm not going to mention the name of the newspaper or the columnist because I don't think that pieces like this, and I have it here, deserve more attention. They deserve less attention, believe it or not. Don't get me wrong, the man's a nice guy. I'm sure he knows plenty. But he was mentioning the gold standard, of all things. The article was about what ails Europe, right? You know, there's all that nonsense going on in Europe, lots of debt, there's a financial crisis going on, etc. And the thing is, he decided to comment on this. And he mentioned about what he thought was wrong in Europe. And he said that, you know, it wasn't a case of too much spending, it wasn't a case of too much debt, and it is, by the way, both of those are the issue.
Right.
He said, and let me quote right from here, this is straight from his column, all right? So what does ail Europe? The truth is that the story is mostly monetary. Really? By introducing a single currency without the institutions needed to make that currency work, Europe effectively reinvented the defects of the gold standard. Defects that played a major role in causing and perpetuating the Great Depression. Ted, this is the most mind-boggling stupidity that I have read in a very long time. I think this blows me away. I mean, in other words, here's a guy who's supposed to know about economics, who has no idea, and he won't even see the most obvious thing. First of all, the gold standard. Lately, it's been in the news. Actually, it was some commentary that said that some, like Homeland Security or whatever, are watching out there because they figure that people who are in favor of the gold standard, somehow they're involved in terrorism.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, just for the record, if anybody's watching me from the government, I like the gold standard, but I hope it's implemented in a caring and sharing way, you know, so everybody's happy. Well, no, seriously, the gold standard basically means the monetary system where you have the ability to have the exchange between dollars and gold. You know, you have that venue. And the point about that is that gold is very limited and scarce.
Right.
So what it basically does is it limits the number of dollars that can be produced by the central bank of that particular
Country.
country. And so basically, the real point about this is the real functionality of the gold standard is that basically it acts as a constraint on the government in its ability to produce more currency so that therefore they have to produce less debt, which in turn means less spending. All right. So look, between you and me, you know, more constraint on the government's ability to increase debt, you know, and increase spending. Because remember, this is supposed to be done on, you know, on our behalf, so to speak. But the thing is, we're the ones who are on the line to pay for this. When the government spends, it's taxpayers and consumers and businesses who will pay, either directly in the case of a taxpayer or indirectly in the case of consumers and businesses. So many people thought that part of the problem with the Great Depression was that there was a gold standard at the time. It was actually a modified gold standard. I don't want to get into it. Because they felt that really we could have prevented the Great Depression if only the government was able to spend more and get into greater debt. And where they come up with this, I'm amazed. You know what I mean? And See, the bottom line is this. Think about it from my role. Ted, I'm a financial planner. And I talked to a client. Imagine if a client came to me and they were spending too much and they were, in too much debt. Now, as I told you, in the case of a country, a gold standard is a constraint on its ability to produce debt and to generate more currency, basically, and do more spending. It's a constraint, which, again, this day and age, constraints, to whatever extent, they're appropriate and they're good. You need it, because otherwise they can spend in unlimited fashion.
Right.
But anyway, imagine me seeing a client who's spending too much and over indebted. Could you imagine me or any financial planner turning to this client and saying, well, your problem is that they didn't raise your credit limit. That's the problem. It's not your spending, it's not your out of control debt. It's that they didn't raise your limit. This is the point. This is the point of that outrageous article, and the I'm sorry, it's just idiotic. It just is. The bottom line is that all these things could be symptoms, to be sure, but the root core problem is that, look, if government spends beyond its means, you're going to get in trouble. And when it spends beyond its means, how do you cover the difference? You get into debt. So the more the government keeps on spending and spending and spending, that produces more and more debt. So in other words, if you don't, act responsibly and rein it in now, then you're forced into more catastrophic choices, that are, inevitable down the road. Exactly. So a lot of this is Keynesian claptrap, and I need to say that, because how you can make a situation better by doing more of the same, this is economic insanity. In other words, if I was a financial planner telling my clients, oh, you're having troubles, so get into more debt, people would look at me as a crackpot. But the moment you sound eloquent and you put out in the public square and you're not talking about individuals, you're talking about governments, all of a sudden there's people go, oh, hey, that sounds right to me. No, it doesn't sound right. It shouldn't sound right. But the essence of it is wrong. Now, what does that do with the precious metals? Well, the thing is this. The insanity that's out there and perpetuating massive debt, massive expansion of the currencies, which means the problems are not going to get alleviated. You might be forestalling it. You might be delaying it, deferring some of this, but the crises will get worse and they'll be much more difficult, and it's going to cause some real pain. And it's going to cause real pain among the most vulnerable among us out there. There's tons of people out there suffering. This can make it worse for society at large. You see? So for me, I tell people gold and silver as part of the venue of this .com now. We mention this because you need to protect yourself from the ravages of these of all these paper catastrophes coming our way.
Right. And one of the things that you pointed out is that the gold standard is a constraint on the government. It's a constraint on their power to speed up the printing presses. Paul, you brought up a great point that the gold standard is a constraint on the government's power to print up money. And printing up money, basically speeding up the printing presses, quantitative easing, whatever euphemism the government wants to say. Basically, it causes inflation. It causes the value of your dollar, how much it can purchase, to go down. And that's really the silent pickpocket in all of the citizens' pockets. It's basically stealing money out of your pocket every day, day after day. So although on the front end it might sound good, the story that they're telling, that basically by printing up more money, you're going to be wealthier. You're wealthier in dollars that are worth less.
Exactly. I mean, it may look better numerically, but in terms of actual value, what is it? I mean, what good is an extra $1 million in your net worth if the price of bread's going to be $50? At that point, among other things. But the bottom line is that we watch these people in action, and we think that because they say things in an eloquent, an academic way, that they know what they're doing. And that just tells me, really, no, if they knew what they were doing, we wouldn't have such massive debt and massive problems at this point. You see, in many cases, because they're dealing with your money, my money, our funds for the U.S. Treasury, they are basically insulating themselves from their own, I don't know, call it what you will, incompetence, bad decisions, right. And you and I are going to pay for this. And we're going to pay for this in many ways. Inflation is only one of the ending costs. You see, so the bottom line is that the gold standard is, and again, it doesn't have to be a perfect gold standard. Even an imperfect one is better than none at all.
Right.
It can be modified, to fit our times, but something that acts as an anchor, a constraint, because if it's not there, then you're talking about unlimited expansion, by the federal government, and that's not wealth being created.
Right.
That, keep in mind, whatever the government does, it's a burden on private economy, either directly or indirectly. So whatever you think you're getting in some kind of material benefit now, the cost down the road will be much, much higher and much more problematic.
Right. Well, Paul, thank you for being with us today on preciousmetalsinvesting.com. That was a great rant. I want to make sure our visitors, both the longtime visitors to preciousmetalsinvesting.org and also our new visitors, feel welcome here, and also check out Paul's website, theravencapitalist.com.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
See you in future videos and more rants to come, believe me.